Okay, and to build on what we were talking about in the last video, in this case, you see you have these fraction exponents. Well, the same exponent rules that we use for regular numbers applied. So if I would have an x to the fourth over x to the third, I would subtract to get an x to the first. So in this case, I'm going to subtract, and by doing 5/3 minus 3/2. Now, we just went over rational expressions, so you might remember how to get a common denominator and simplify that. If I was getting a common denominator, that would multiply the first one by 2 and the second one by 3. So I'd have 10 over 6 minus 9 over 6, which is going to be an answer of 1/6. And what it wants is just the value of A. In other words, you're just typing in what A would equal. So A would equal 1/6. Of course, if you're not comfortable getting the common denominator, I could have gone to Desmos and done 5/3 minus 3/2 and click your little fraction box button, and it would also give you 1/6. Let's go ahead and try another one or two of these. Okay, if I have one like this, this one is a power to a power. So I have a power on a parenthesis or a power to power. So I'm going to multiply. So what you're going to do is just like if it was, x to the third to the fourth power, I would multiply and get x to the 12th. I'm still going to multiply here. So I'm going to have 2 times 2/3, which is mean I'm going to have an x to the 4/3. And once again, if multiplying those fractions doesn't come easily, you can always use a calculator, but hopefully it's fresh on your mind after doing our rational unit. And then that is going to give me an answer of 4/3. Okay, let's go ahead and try one other type of problem. This section emphasizes knowing what the distinguishing between negative exponents and negative numbers. A negative exponent has to be rewritten. A negative number does not. So just if, for example, in this problem, I have a -5, I've never rewritten -5. -5 is absolutely not equal to 1/5. That is absolutely false. Now, 5 to the -1 power is absolutely equal to 1/5. That's true. So a negative exponent is totally different than a negative number. So in this case, the negative number stays where it is, but the x, since it has a negative exponent, has to go to the bottom and become x to the +1. Or you could just write that as a -5 over an x, because an exponent of 1 is optional. It's understood. Let's look at a couple more examples of these type of problems. Okay, this one, the whole 3x has a negative exponent, so that means the whole 3x is going to move. So since the whole 3x has a negative exponent, the whole -3x is going to move down to the bottom. Moving down to the bottom changes the sign of the exponent, but it does not affect the sign of the number. Once again, a negative number, you don't move it top and bottom, and if it has to move top and bottom because a negative exponent, it does not change the sign. A negative sign in the front of the number is totally different than a negative exponent. Now, to keep that on the bottom, I do need an understood 1 on top, and they probably want, and they say to do this without parentheses, so that means I need to simplify. So I have to think -3 squared, a negative times a negative is a positive, 3 times 3 is 9, x times x is x squared, so your final answer should be 1 over 9x squared. We'll try maybe one more. This one, I have the -3 is a negative number. It has no need to move anywhere. So the -3 stays on top, but the x has a -3 as an exponent, so it needs to move to the bottom. When it moves to the bottom, that does change the exponent to a +3. So once again, if I have something where the whole thing has a negative exponent, the whole thing moves. So that would be 1 over -2x. If I have something where just part of it has a negative exponent, only the part that has a negative exponent moves. And once again, no need to try to move a negative number. And if a negative number does move, the sign does not change. It's only the negative exponents that cause things to move from one side of the fraction to the other.